Okay, so I'm starting with the Irish Independent this morning, and it's Dub's bubble has to burst sometime. Royal legend. So the royal legend in question is Martin O'Connell. He doesn't have a specific prediction if it's like, 4 o'clock this weekend, but against Dublin, there's no way back for any team if you go behind, if you get swamped. I don't think Dublin are as good as they were, so you've got to put it up to them. The bubble has to burst sometime, so if chances come along, they have to be taken.
Mm-hmm. All very obvious. Like, except for this thing that Dublin aren't as good as they once were. Are we sure we're not watching a Dublin team in transition? And they're still the best team in the country while in transition, and actually...
Well, they are, yeah.
This team is actually at the lowest ebb, because you have to be at the lowest ebb before you make that rise. And potentially that team could rise to better than anything we've seen.
You know the way everybody talks about their defence being like a weakness? They've got 5 of the starting 6 who've been there the whole time. And like, Owen Merchant seems pretty good. So, and they still have Cluxton. Mm-hmm. So maybe that defence has come off its absolute peak. Maybe. But like, is Rory O'Carroll back to Championship standard just yet?
Well, I think there's no question that defence has come off its peak. Of course it has. There's no way Philly McMahon is as good as he once was. Rory O'Carroll coming back to...
Philly's not a full-timer now.
Well, that's the thing. But whoever is going to replace him right now isn't as good as Philly McMahon was in his peak. The thing is, that player might become better than Philly McMahon was in his peak. There's no guarantees that this rise is going to stop anytime soon. What is the limit for Owen Merchant, for example? We just don't know. It could be absolutely anything. It could be one of the best cornerbacks that Dublin have produced in recent years. My point is that this regeneration is happening now before our eyes, because players like Philly McMahon are getting older, players like Johnny Cooper will get older, players like Cian O'Sullivan will get older, and their talents will eventually fade. Because they're so good, we just haven't seen too many people who are coming behind them, or they haven't got a chance. I suspect that they're just going to come back and be just as strong as that defence was at the very top of its level.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that as they get older, they get more experience and they get craftier, and that's defences do tend to gel as time goes on, and they've had plenty of time to do it. Limerick and Tip Munster final set to be a sellout. There's a great picture of Frankie Dettori in the rain. It's black and white. Munster face massive Euro challenge in Mitz Van Gran. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it the hard way, right? So the Champions Cup draw yesterday includes defending champions Saracens, Racing 92 and the Ospreys.
Not great, is it?
Well, I mean, okay, so Saracens are going to beat you. Probably, more than likely.
Twice.
Saracens are going to win Thomond Park. Good game. Are Racing as good as they used to be?
Well, they're clearly not. They're not as good as they used to be, but they're
still. And then the
Ospreys,
like, I mean, the issue here is that finishing second might not be good enough to get out. That's the problem.
That tends to be the case with the group of death.
Leinster got Benetton. It's like pencil in a quarter-final, pencil in a home quarter-final appearance.
Yeah, the pool that gets Treviso tends to be the one that does get 2 people out of the pool. They've also got Leon and Northampton as well, and I'm sure Munster might take Leon and Northampton over Saracens and Racing 92, so it's not exactly ideal from Munster's perspective. This is not the ideal way to go about getting beaten in a semi-final again.
Yeah, now having said that, Benetton did run Munster close in the quarter-final of the...
Pro 14.
Yeah, and apparently they're better.
Should have beaten them.
They're better than Italy at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, like, there's no question about it. This is probably the best Italian club side we've seen in quite some time. So it's not exactly the gimme it used to be, especially going over there to play, but you would buy somebody's hand off to get that Leinster pool instead of Munster's pool, to be quite honest with you. And that is the lead story in the Irish Times as well. World Cup's had to be a complicating factor in Munster's tough European programme. That is the other thing with this. Between Saracens, Munster, Racing 92, is there going to be somebody involved in the World Cup final, which takes place on November the 2nd? Like, round 1 takes place in the weekend from 15, 16, 17th of November, so you've only got a 2-week break. So perhaps that could be a factor that changes things around. We all know...
You want England to be in it, don't you?
Yeah, we all know from...
Suddenly, as a Munster fan, you're like, screw the World Cup. Come on, Saracens. Come on, England. They get through.
Weird things happen the season after a World Cup.
They do.
Like Connacht winning the Pro 12 last time. Not that that was a weird thing. It was a fantastic season by them, but the start of that year was complicated by the fact that there was a World Cup. Also in the Irish Times this morning, O'Neill still breathing his positivity around Cork, and Eamon Donoghue writing that Meath's running game faces the ultimate test against Dublin. Keoghan can cause real damage from wing back without needing to kick the ball.
So Ronan McCarthy is on the front of the Examiner this morning, the rebel cause. And he's saying that he wants the performance to reward Cork's core fan base. And then good stuff inside from Declan Bonner talking about Colin O'Rourke. I've missed Colin O'Rourke giving out about Michael Murphy. Said he often doesn't perform in the biggest game.
Is that what he said? Was that on RT for the Donegal-Tyrone game? I didn't actually hear any of the studio analysis that day.
So Orla Bannon's piece here says, in the build-up to Donegal's Ulster semi-final win over Tyrone, Meath's former All-Ireland winner suggested Murphy doesn't often perform on the biggest of stages.
That's a hot take.
Bonner responded, I think Colin might need to go to Specsavers because any big game I've seen, Michael does not go hiding, that's for sure. He's been brilliant. He's a leader on and off the pitch, and he goes looking for work anywhere on that pitch. You would say almost he's done too much in the big games, where like he's tried to be all things because that's where the team has needed him. And like, he's one of the footballers of his generation.
Yeah, and he is.
Put in a decade of amazing work. What the hell?
I think it might take a little bit of time for everybody to actually just appreciate how good Michael Murphy is, which seems like a really strange thing to say because he's a forward who scores a lot, who was involved a lot.
You're coming late to this train. I was saying he was like best footballer in the country. Here's LeBron, and you're like, nah, that's ridiculous.
Okay, well, LeBron, you can argue against the LeBron thing, obviously. This is the difference between him going missing in big games and him not going missing in big games.
Now you're suddenly like, oh, I think people underestimate Michael Murphy. I'm like, yes, you.
Clearly some people overestimate him.
You totally do.
He's not the LeBron James of Gaelic football, but your comparison was that he is somebody who can bring a team from one level to another and can help them contend. And this is a person who has gone through, we've spoken about transition there a moment ago, it has been vicious transition in Donegal since their All-Ireland win, between management, between players. Like even just in the space of the last year, you kind of look at what they had to do last summer without Paddy McBrearty and then Oran McNeilish stepping away in the off-season. And Michael Murphy still steps up, finished the league in exceptional form. We saw him on the edge of the square at one point in the second quarter of the game against Tyrone the last day, in and around the middle of the park as well. He does everything. He's an exceptional player. I don't think he goes missing in the big games. So I think that's one thing we can agree on. The LeBron James of Gaelic football, it might be a step too far, but I can see your point in terms of how central he is to the team. The Herald is, our year won't be defined by Dubs results. Inside the back page, that is McEntee talking about that. And McHugh recalls Breffni County's last Ulster success. I was thinking that was Ryan McHugh who was recalling that. It's obviously Mark McHugh. I was thinking, does Ryan McHugh remember 97? Because that's a very, very good memory. But Mark McHugh, of course, would have been on the selecting team with Captain in 97. When
he was manager.
Was he manager? Yeah, of course. In 97 when they won the Ulster Championship, beaten in the semi-final on that occasion. And the Royals project starting to bear fruit for Andy, says Conor McKeown. So there's a lot of hope for me, that seems, in general. But whether or not the hope will actually pertain to our performance that season, get beaten by less than 10 points, I'm not so sure. What's the spread for Sunday?
For which one?
For Dublin Meath, like
12.
12. Sounds about right.
White hot. This is the Telegraph this morning. Strikers double sends unbeaten England through to the last 16. Scotland heartbreak as VAR penalty decision ends their hopes. So the Scottish keeper incrementally by just a tiny little bit steps off her line, saves a penalty, referee orders a retake. It's 3-3 draw when Argentina score the retaken penalty, and away they go. So Scotland are out.
The back page of the Irish Daily Mail is going for gold. Frankie's flying high at Royal Ascot ahead of his cup double bid with Stradivarius. And climb down, World Rugby drops nations competition. This is quite a spectacular climb down indeed. The whole thing seems to have been ditched from World Rugby around this potential nations competition. And FAI director quits in row over reform. This is Philip Quinn saying that there's been an untimely resignation of director John Early, the Tipperary native. He's the chairman of the FAI's largest affiliate, which is 120,000 strong schoolboy section. He's quit after new talks about the new board. Under the proposed reforms, the SFAI will not have a voice on the 12-person board. And this is what he's unhappy about. This is what he's resigned about. And they currently have just 4 delegates on the 58-person FAI council. So still more rumblings in the FAI. We've got the AGM next month at this point in June.
Yeah, okay, so that's back on the back of the Star as well. FAI crisis grows as Early goes. It's over to Blue. Lamps tells Rams he'll join Chelsea for right offer. So Frank Lampard now is just haggling over the details of his new contract as the Chelsea manager, according to Scott Coleman on the back of the Star this morning. Chelsea want to do the deal. Derby are like, hang on a second, we've got no manager. And obviously Stevie G turned them down. He's going to stay with Rangers, who might be going to Cork in European competition. That'll be an interesting security challenge. The great line from, was it the Cork chairman or the Cork manager? Yeah, there's lots of Liverpool fans down here, We need lots of security to stop them all trying to get selfies with Stevie G. Good man. And then also, apparently Lee Boyer was another option, but he got his deal at Charlton, and for Frank Lampard's successor, John Terry, was obviously in the mix, but he signed a new deal with Villa.
Lo and behold, on the back page of The Sun, it's Manchester United transfer news. Look who's walking. Rom's £180,000 a week Inter-deal. All eyes. £50 million Cherries ace Brooks. Basically, just pick a player who is very good at football and you slap a ridiculously high fee on that person's head and you have yourself a Manchester United story. So Lukaku going to Inter Milan. David Brooks is now the latest person that Manchester United are linked to. £50 million rated. So if you're £50 million rated, will Manchester United be expected to stump up £75 million? Probably. For David Brooks, like it's just got to a point now where everybody is just taking the piss out of Manchester United. I find it very, very funny, but if you're a Manchester United fan, you must be seriously worried. I see Glazers Out was trending on Twitter yesterday as well. I see Goldbridge was not happy with the fact that they've taken a full week or two of the transfer window to not make any signings.
I mean, he's got a point.
Like, is this the sort of thing that they should have been working on during the season, and that once the transfer window opens, it's just rubber stamping them?
Yes.
It's hard to know.
Isn't that how good teams do it?
It certainly seems that Manchester United have the biggest body of work ahead of them, and they've been the slowest to move. Even when it comes to selling players, like, get Romelu Lukaku out of the club if you want rid of him, but do it early. I guess this is early-ish. Paul Pogba, get rid of him early.
Yeah.
Like, do what Chelsea did. Now, granted, Chelsea probably had the benefit of knowing that Hazard was going to leave last year. They had a full 12 months to prepare for this. Manchester United might not have foreseen this coming when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer started so well. So you've got to give him a bit of, you got to cut him a bit of slack in that regard. But still, it's selling is important, and maybe Manchester United need the few quid at this point because they're being kind of overpriced on every single person they're talking about at this point. That being said, like, I mean, David Brooks will be an exciting signing for Manchester United. £50 million is definitely not something I would have expected.
50 million is the new 5 million, though. Come home to Juve, Pogba. Twist and fight for £89 million, man. Italians reckon they can beat Real to United stars. It's a Darren Lewis story. Juventus are confident of beating Real Madrid to re-sign Paul Pogba. I mean, at least there's a market. If nothing, Manchester United have managed to create a market for him, or at least the illusion of a market for Paul Pogba this summer. Lampard tells players, when Chelsea call me, I'm off. Frank Lampard has told Derby's players he will quit the club to join Chelsea if he gets the right offer. I mean, they've got nobody else, do they? At this stage, if they don't get Frank Lampard, things don't look particularly good for Chelsea. So Frank Lampard's going to Chelsea, right?
I think so. Well, look, why hasn't Steven Gerrard said I'll go to Derby? Is Derby a step up from Rangers?
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure why he would. Like, I guess it's just a bit more precarious, is it? The idea of actually saying
going to Derby.
We could have an alright season and finish outside the playoff spots, and then my stock plummets. Whereas with Rangers, I've got a bit more of a safer thing going, because you can finish second much easier than you can finish, say, second in the Championship.
Yeah, but does he not have to win now? Celtic have come off their absolute peak.
Now, I still think you can get away with not winning with Rangers next season. Maybe he's just kind of drawn to the idea of going to Cork, and that's why he wants to hang around. The Racing Post front page is played again. Strad, so superstars Stradivarius and Frank Dettori bid for a famous repeat in a Red Hot Gold Cup clash with Crackstairs, DXB and Cross Counter. And then the back page of the Racing Post is around the Cricket World Cup. Aussies face bridge battle. Bang up for it, says the Racing Post.
Okay, back page of the Guardian this morning is rolling back the years. The Tory set sights on Gold Cup after defying rain in Royal Ascot double, and joy and despair. England reached last 16, but it's VAR agony for Scotland. The Scots are out after they blew a 3-0 lead against Argentina to finish 3-0 at the last kick of the game, and a goal early and late from England saw them win 2-0 against Japan, and they are through to the last 16.